Good evening and welcome to a special show of Inside Scoop. I'm Rick Morelli. Tonight we have a great show for you. Tonight we have a number of school board candidates who are here to talk about the special election that's going to take place in only Schuylkill County and Carbon County in the next month. Back in the primary election there was a mishap on the ballots in Schuylkill County and Carbon County, and now there's going to be a special election. And we're going to talk to you tonight about this election and talk to the candidates about their thoughts and what's right and what's wrong. Here with us tonight we have school board member Carmella Yenkevich, as well as a candidate. We have Jared O'Donnell, who is a candidate for the second time now, and we have Clarence John, who's a school board member as well as a candidate, and my co-hosts Dave Sosar and Mike DeCosmo could not make it. Thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you. And we appreciate you coming here. And again, as I just mentioned, special election, historic election, some mishaps that took place. So what we want to do is we want to gather your thoughts as to what your thoughts. Do you agree with this election? How's it going to impact the votes? And where's it going to go? And you know what, Carmella, I'll go with you right now. What are your thoughts?
Well, in the beginning, I did file the objection along with 24 other voters, and the judges agreed that there needs to be a special election. So I was happy with that outcome. I'm also happy because now it's going to be a fair election with the correct ballot, and the people have a choice of the correct candidate.
And let's clarify that. What happened with the ballot was Steve Hahn, who's been a long-term school board member, initially put his name on. He took it off, and then for some reason there was a mishap, and the name was still on. So the judge ruled that the ballot was illegal. Now the question is, and I think it's a debate as to, well, are those voters, now this election is going to take place July 23rd. It's going to be an open election to just those people who voted, not all the registered voters. That itself, I think, creates a little bit of a debate. Jared, I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
No, I think the way that in which it's going to be conducted, an open style, the people who voted on May 21st will be allowed to vote, once again. And I felt that, if we're going to have another election, let's have it be open. Let's have it be same thing as May 21st, like reenacted as much as possible the same way without, doing paper, ballots or anything like that. So I think that this is the best, the most fair and most equitable for everyone.
But do you think it's fair to the fact that those voters who maybe could not vote on May 21st now can't vote on July 23rd? I mean, you're only going out and targeting those people who voted. I mean, is that something that you should be concerned about? And I also want to ask each of you, and Dave, you could chime in, how's this going to impact all of you with the outcomes? Because as of right now, as we stand with the current votes, both of you won on both tickets, Mr. John and Jared, and then Carmella, you did not. So how's that? What are your thoughts about that? And I'll go to you, Mr. John.
Well, it's an unfortunate situation that this happened, but I agree with Jared. It should be an open ballot. I understand what you're saying, that the people who voted the first time may not be able to vote this time. People who would want to vote this time that didn't vote the first time can't. But I think it's the most equitable way we can do this is by letting the same people cast their ballots again. They have a definite choice this time. It's unfortunate it happened, but the young lady who was in charge of the campaign or the voting, I'm pretty sure she didn't realize our school district was in 3 counties. So I don't hold her at blame at all. It's a shame that it happened. Let's hope it comes out the right way, the way the people want it. Not the way the politicians want it, but the way the people want it. If I lose, that's fine. Jared wins and Carmella wins, that's fine. That's what the people wanted, or vice versa. It doesn't matter to me as long as it's what the people want.
Before we get started, and please understand that I'm going to try to play devil's advocate here a little bit tonight. I wish all of you the best of luck, and everybody else who's on the ballot this time around as well. There are some people who are suggesting that the actual remedy here may be worse than the injury caused. By that I mean that you will probably have about 4,000 voters. If you look at the vote that was actually cast in Carbon County, I think it comes to be about 1,600. These are actually people who voted. Now, they might not all have voted for a school board candidate, or they might not have all voted for one school board, or for 4 candidates. They may have bullet voted, they may have voted for 2 candidates or 3. The same thing I think happened in Schuylkill County to a degree too. You're going to talk about actually I guess before it's all over, maybe having about 4,000 voters who actually cast votes, whether they vote for school board members or not, who voted. What do you say to people in Luzerne County who no longer have the right to vote, and having Schuylkill County revote and Carbon County revote only, and say, well, we know what Luzerne County did. Now we can make the big difference. Any comments to that? Because I think there will probably be, I hope not, but there could be obviously another challenge if someone doesn't like the redo this time. And I know you're saying it's fair, and I agree with you, it's fair. But what do you think? And I'll let that be tossed out to all of you.
It's really a troubling situation because, really what can happen is the people who lost by a wider margin, not just, us three, people who lost by a wider margin can decide, the voters who voted for those people can decide, we're not going to vote for those 2 or 3 individuals now because, they don't have that much of a chance of winning or overtaking another candidate. So that's what really troubles me about the entire process and the remedy to this. I didn't really know what was actually fair, what was actually equitable to everyone. That's why I really wanted to, really investigate this a little bit more to see how it would play out. So either way, I think it's going to create a tense situation for everyone.
It's obviously a difficult situation in the sense that I don't really know of too many instances when situations like this have occurred that you would ask for redo.
It didn't happen often.
No, it doesn't. But to either one of you,
what are
are
your
there
thoughts on
situations
Dave's question?
about how that happens?
I don't think it involves Luzerne County at all. Everything was fair in Luzerne County.
Okay.
I know what Jared is saying. Those other people that they may have voted for Steve, Tommy, and Fred, and they may not have voted for either one of the 3 of us.
Right.
Now they're going to come back maybe and vote for us, or maybe not vote at all.
Right.
There's some people that may have voted for us, may not go at all, and say I'm sick of this. So there's so many different scenarios.
I think today's point is that if you look at the numbers, when you look at all of it, because you're not throwing out Luzerne County, those votes are definite. Yeah. If you want to break down these numbers, I think it's fair to say, and first I want to clarify, the reason why we have the 3 of you on, you all were on the cusp. Both of you came 4th, and 5th, and that's why we didn't have the other candidates, and if we have to do another show, we'll invite them, but that's the reason why we had you guys. When you look at the votes with Freddie Mariano and Tommy Tirico, they came out the bottom. Now, someone could say very easily, listen, these guys have hardly any chance of winning. Why should I vote for them? So the people who maybe voted for them in the past might say, I'm not going to vote because I'm throwing away my vote. I'm now going to move my vote to other people. And even the people who voted for maybe Steve Hahn, which I'm sure Steve got a lot of single votes. Don't you think that's going to affect the election? Is that fair? Is that something that just because Steve Hahn's name was on, is that totally unfair? That's the debate. There is a debate out there. This is not something that happens all the time. Carmella,
I guess, like he said, he could play devil's advocate, but my opinion, it is what it is. There was a mistake. The county rectified it. Let's just see what happens.
But in fairness,
they're having a
Carmella,
re-election,
right,
which is what the judges decided was the right thing to do. And my opinion is just let them re-vote and
but you
let
are
the
the
chips
ones who
fall
can
where they
benefit
may.
from this, correct me? Versus
I
these two.
of course I could, but on the other hand, as Clarence said, it could go any way. I didn't do this because I thought I was going to win. I did this because it was the right thing to do, and I've said that all along.
Let me ask this question at this point: and we're not going to change. We're not going to change situations now. The judges have made their decision, so the legal issue is settled.
Right.
Okay. So this is a hypothetical, but would any of you see maybe as a remedy, better remedy of allowing everybody just as a redo and going into the November election and just throwing everybody's name on and allowing the situation? Is that, because again, what I'm asking is the remedy here going to be acceptable to all voters, even though Luzerne County was not really involved in it because our ballot was right? There are going to be Luzerne County voters who may challenge this. Would there be an acceptable idea to maybe instead if the judges would have acted different, could you have lived with a vote in November instead, with everybody on the ballot?
I could absolutely live with it. The only question I would have then is there are additional people who'll be voting who weren't registered this time,
Right.
and they'll be making a decision that there should have been made in the primary.
Right.
So that's the only question I would have with it. And my philosophy is let the people decide. However the judges decide is fine with me. And the only other problem, like I said, Dave, is if they did that, there'd be a multitude of other people that would be registered to vote that weren't registered
Right.
this time. And I don't think that part would be fair.
Right.
Now you're going to say, okay, the same people who voted the first time can vote again in November. I'd go along with that, but not anybody new.
Yeah.
So, and again, to his comment, Jared, your thoughts, you're shaking your head.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I really wish the remedy was, May 20th, they came up with, a solution to all of this, and, Mr. Hunt's name wasn't on the ballot. I really wish that would be the remedy, but we can't, reverse time and go back.
This is my thought with elections. I mean, there has to be a little bit of a, people always talk about going to the election to go vote, understand what's going on. They blame the people who are working. Isn't it fair to say that sometimes the voters need to have a little bit understanding what's going on? I mean, it's a little bit embarrassing that you have somebody who's clearly out there, his name wasn't out, you read the newspaper, and this happens all the time. They vote for this person. I mean, and kudos to Steve that he got as many votes, but he around here, a lot of people knew he wasn't running. And I think there's a little bit of a responsibility to people to know what the heck is going on when you go vote. I mean, and so, you spend money on a new election. There's questions as to whether, again, people knew, they didn't. I mean, no one knows. No one's going to know who voted for who. And so, I think the counties are saying, listen, they made a mistake and they got to fix it. And this is their remedy. And again, today's point is the remedy better than what took place? And that's why we're here tonight, to talk about it and to discuss it. And so to add on to that, we're going to actually take a quick break. We'll come back, we'll discuss this, and we'll talk a little bit about the absentee ballots and again, what the voters will be able to do. So stay right there. You're watching Inside Scoop, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Inside Scoop. We're here tonight talking about the special school board election that's going to be taking place later in this month. One of the things we were talking about during the break was, this is a new campaign. I mean, everyone has now another chance for the most part. And like Dave said earlier, maybe you got 4,000 people who have the opportunity to vote. It's easy within the next month to go out and find out who those people are, knock on their doors, and target those people. And that makes it a little bit easier in a way, because during a regular election, you don't know who's all going to vote. But now you know who can vote, which narrows the field. Does that play a benefit to any candidates versus uncandidates? I mean, or to any of you? What are your thoughts, and how are you going to handle that?
I don't know.
Jared.
Personally, I think that I know I'm in a very slim minority here. I like to campaign. Mm-hmm. I like to go out and meet people that obviously may not know me or haven't heard of me before. I like to go door to door and meet people and hear their concerns. I obviously don't like the negative part of the campaign and everything, but that's part of politics. I understand that. But I think over the next 3 weeks, as far as me, I'm gonna hit the streets and go back out there and pretend like this was the lead up to May 21st. This is what I'm gonna do.
Carmella.
I'm thinking about it. I may do what Jared has in mind. I'm not sure at this point, but if I do, it's going to be something of that nature rather than ads or anything like that.
Okay, Mr. John, you're gonna.
Well, Jared just mentioned the word politics. I'm not a politician. I never was a politician, and I will never be a politician. I will do approximately what I did the first time. And if that works, fine, and if it doesn't, God bless them.
Well, and again, I think part of the campaigning is that people need to know, as I just said before. The problem with I have with elections, people don't know too much. I don't think the public's that educated, and as much as the newspaper, everybody could, they don't. And I think it's important for people to know, who are you, what are you running for, where do you stand, and on the issues. And so I respectfully disagree. I think it is a good thing for people to get out there and see people. But the other debate, though, is again, going back to those people who maybe couldn't vote on in May, What if they want to vote now? I mean, do you think that those people are slighted? Do you think that they may be saying, time out a second, I'm an elected, I voted all these years, I was away in May, now I want to vote. Is that something that people could complain about?
No, and I'm going to, if I can jump in here and answer that one for everybody. If you voted or if you did not vote in the May election, this is a redo. This is not a brand new election. And I think the judges have it right in that sense. You had a chance to speak the first time and to say, you know, I've been slighted because I didn't get a chance to vote now. That's sour grapes. I truly believe that that's sour grapes because you didn't take the time to do your due diligence and go to the voting polls. If you were away, if you were involved in other things, there's such a thing called an absentee ballot, which I think maybe we want to deal with a little bit here for this election and see how that plays on in, but only for those who were sick or in nursing homes or were away from the last time. You had an opportunity, and too few people used that opportunity to speak and use their vote by an absentee ballot. And it's a shame, but it's true. So I don't think it's fair to go back to those people now. But it does bring up an interesting question and something that everybody, I think, wants to speak to. And I think, you know, rather than make it a political statement for anybody, I would say to those people who want to get a write-in vote because they are in a nursing home, because they are sick or an invalid, in Schuylkill County and Carbon County to make your voice heard quickly at your election bureau. And if you are within the sounds of our voice and watching this show, please get out and ask for that absentee ballot and quickly because there will only be approximately, 3 weeks.
Those absentee ballots, from what we understand, are going to be going out very shortly, and the public, the people who did vote, will have an opportunity, if they can't make the polls, do the absentee. So if you're in Schuylkill County or Carbon watching the show, note that you're going to get an absentee ballot, and they could go ahead and do that. You know, again, tonight I want to really just mix it up and talk about the debate and the pros and cons of this. You mentioned during the break about, I think, Senator Rhodes,
Yes.
who passed away in an election, and his name was still on it. And that was brought up at many times. They said, well, wait a second, there have been times when someone was on the ballot and they passed away, and obviously they couldn't serve, but they still voted. But yet those elections weren't illegal. Now, we talked a little bit, and Carmella, you said that was different than this situation. And your thoughts on
That's
that?
a whole different scenario. I mean, a name being put on that wasn't supposed to be is a lot different. He was supposed to be on. Unfortunately, he passed away. Maybe people felt sentimental and they said, oh, I'm going to vote for him anyway. Who knows? No one will know the answer to that. But it's an entirely different situation.
And it causes, it is by legal standard. The judges were right in making a legal, people can argue about whether the remedy that was decided upon was right, wrong, or indifferent, but they made a legal decision on the election and have every right to do that. That was not such a decision because his name was legally on the ballot. And so at that point, they couldn't have removed it. And everybody's right in regards to that. It was not redone. The Democratic Party simply renamed somebody to replace him until a special election. But that was altogether different because of that.
Yeah. So, again, your thoughts on this, you're all fine with it, you're going to go out and hit it hard. What would you say to the voters out there as to, you know, what differentiates any of you? I mean, give you an opportunity to campaign for yourselves. I mean, you got 2 school board members. Carmella, you've been on for a number of years. Mr. John, you're on 1 term, going for your 2nd. And Jared, you're now a newcomer here. I mean, what differentiates you 3? And again, I'm going to, well, obviously because you're all here and you're both all very close when it comes to votes. What's differentiating all of you when it comes to the issues, and what makes you all different? Go ahead. Mr. John, why don't you start?
Well, I have 45 years of experience in the school district, 18 as a business education teacher and 27 as an administrator. I have a degree in accounting. I understand finances. I run the school district's credit union for 30-some years. We went from $75,000 in assets to about $23 million. We have a #1 rating from the State Department of Banking. So I do have quite a bit of experience both in education and in finances. I think it's important that people look at it, and I always use an analogy. If you look at the law, the bar. Who's on their review board? Lawyers. AMA, it's doctors. What's wrong with having an educator on a school board, on a board of education? What better person to have on a board of education than an educator? I'm not saying there's anything wrong with these two people. There isn't. But I'm just saying what's wrong with having an educator on a board of education. One thing I think, I want to go back to the absentee ballot, Doc. I think one thing we didn't mention is if somebody voted in person last time and they're in a nursing home or hospital this time,
Right.
they can get an
They
absentee
can get
ballot.
an absentee ballot, you're right.
It's okay,
Yes.
just so they understand
Yes,
that.
yes.
Okay.
As long as they voted in the last election, their vote was valid, therefore they will be identified as a proper and legal voter this time.
Jared, what are your thoughts?
You know, I'll just comment on Mr. John's statement. You know, I can think of someone else that would be, I think, not just as fit as, you know, an educator would be a student. And I've always ran on, even the last time I ran as, you know, as a student, continuing my education at King's College, graduating next year with a degree in finance. So I think it's really important, like Mr. John said, to have someone who is financially versed, who understands the finances of, you know, a district our size. It's extremely important to have individuals on that board who are in touch with what's going on financially in our district. And I think, coming from my perspective, just graduating less than 4 years ago from the high school, I think, you know, a youthful perspective is definitely needed in that school board.
Carmella?
One thing Clarence said, what's wrong with having an educator, which I would agree. However, I think having too many educators is not a good thing. I think there's 9 seats. It should be 9, not maybe 9 different, but people coming from different walks of life. In other words, you have Clarence, an educator. He's a student. I come from just from the PTA. I got involved. That's how I got involved in the first place. I like to represent students. I'm very big on parent involvement. As a matter of fact, we started a committee recently. And of course, I always look out for taxpayers. That's been one of my things that I was always concerned about. But it's always the students first.
I do want to recognize the other candidates. Jimmy Chapman, who was the high vote getter, Bob Mahalik, who's a current school board member, Freddie Mariano, who's also going to be on the ballot, and then also Tom Chirico. So those are the other people who the people will be able to vote on. We have only 3 minutes left. I want to segue away from the election for 1 second. There's an issue that recently came up, and I want to throw it at specifically the two of you who are the board members. Bullying on the buses. This has been out in the newspapers, and there's been some controversy out there. What can you share with us relatively briefly regarding what's going on there and what's happened?
I think we have to go back and look at our board policy. Rick, you were on the board, you understand. There are certain things in that board policy which remedies actions. If I'm not mistaken, there's different steps for different categories. And there's certain times you can remove kids for a year off the board, off the bus. I don't see anything wrong with doing that. What happened there was unconscionable. I understand the bus driver, well, I guess he's going to lose his job, I don't know. I don't know if that's fair, to tell you the truth. Perhaps if he couldn't have handled that bus, they should put somebody else on it, or put an SRO on it, or whatever. But I don't think I think we're looking at the wrong way. I think we should put the penalties in place, follow through with them, and send a message. If we're not going to send a message to the students outside of having them arrested or cited, let's take them off the bus for a year, 6 months, however long. That's the only way they're going to learn.
Carmella, your thoughts on this?
There was absolutely no reason to do that. I was so shocked and upset over that. I really was. But Clarence is right. I think if you keep them off the bus for a year, or whatever the case may be, something has to be done, and parents have to know that their students cannot, or their children cannot be acting this way on a bus, in school, anywhere. So
Taking a
it's,
little bit of a tougher stance.
I think so.
Jared, someone from the outside?
For me, just to watch that video, it was despicable. It was one of the worst acts that I've ever witnessed in my life. Just to take advantage of that, I would hope that the board would follow through with the strongest possible actions from their side of it. I would really hope that they would, and I think that they are doing that right now.
Okay. Unfortunately, we are out of time, but I want to thank the three of you for coming here and sharing with the viewers about this new election. Again, for those of you out there, specifically in Schuylkill County and Carbon, July 23rd, it's Tuesday, there's going to be a special election. Pay attention. I'm sure there'll be a lot of information coming out in the newspaper. And again, as Mr. John said, it's up to you. If you want to make a decision, you got to get out there and vote. So we appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate all of you for joining us again, Dave as well. And we'll see you next time on Inside Scoop. So have a great evening.